this is where you want to go over to the assignments link on the left on My Beckett. This is where you're going to find a place to submit your assignments and also to find all the resources to help you create your assessments and the links that you need. And that's where we're going to find an assessment support resources. This file, which is the instruction, basically a guide to how you can create your infographic. So I'll just go over that. The assignments again. So you are, as you know, creating an infographic which is broken down into 4 parts. So you're going to choose an organisation of your choice, and ideally it should be a large organisation. It's got a lot of activity. If you choose a small organisation, you're going to probably struggle to find 2,000 words to say about them. So it could be a clothing brand, or it could be a food brand, or what would a car, a brand of your choice. But it needs to be real. They need to have real activities. There are 4 parts to it. First of all, using academic theory, you'll identify the dynamics and key drivers for digital marketing within your selected organisation. These should be presented at the start. Then you're going to undertake a digital tools audit for your selected organisation. That means you're going to select 2 of the tools from the digital marketing toolbox. So that's 2 of the different types of digital marketing that we've gone over in the lectures, which might be email marketing, website, social media, content marketing, paid search, SEO. And you're going to use the academic theory that we've discussed and models to evaluate these tools. And when I show you some examples, we'll look at how other students have used those academic tools. You're required to provide recommendations on how your chosen organisation can improve the use of the 2 digital tools you selected. You should justify your arguments with references to pertinent academic theory. So when you're, even if you think, oh, they're doing great, there's always room for improvement. There are always things that you can find that they can do better. So yes, provide those recommendations with good reasons. And then you're going to identify and select the different monitoring and measurement tools that would be the most appropriate for evaluating those 2 digital tools you selected. Provide reasons to justify your choice, and you can illustrate your arguments with visual images, metrics, and analytics in use. So if you've chosen a website, you might talk about using Google Analytics to assess the growth rate of referrals and things like that. Or for social media as well, if you've chosen social media, you would also say you would use Google Analytics to look at the number of referrals from Instagram, the number of conversions, and those sorts of things. So the metrics and analysis lecture that we did yesterday, very, very important for understanding exactly which metrics you're going to use to measure and the tools that you'll use. Okay, I'm going to open up the example that I showed. I'm just going to find that file, which was supposed to be in this place. example from one of our UK students this year. So, looking at the start, excuse me, can we have a quiet please? So at the start we have an introduction to Sheen's website. So they would say, so they explain what it is, what the purpose of the website is. So they've got a website, it's one of the tools from the digital toolbox, Hanlon. And then they reference Hanlon 2002-22, so make sure you put those references in. The purpose and function is to inform people on the aims of the organisation, their work and their team. Sheen's website has an entire About Us page explaining their beliefs, customers, employees and business model. Shopping websites offer an opportunity to instantly buy online and can be enhanced with product images and reviews from happy customers, which Sheen's website is successful at. So they do a brief introduction to the website. They've also got an introduction to the brand itself, so that's very important. Sheen is an online brand with a global target audience. They utilise digital marketing with active social medias, influencer marketing campaigns, the website and app. Digital marketing refers to achieving marketing objectives through applying digital media, data and technology, and then they reference Kathleen Smith. It's effective as it allows brands to reach and engage their target audience, build a loyal customer community, track your performance and get an immediate response to ads and products. So your infographic should start off with an introduction to the brands that you've chosen and also introduce the different tools that you're using. So the way they've laid it out, to be honest, I would lay it out the other way around, just to make it clearer. When you're trying to make it clear, you kind of want to start with the introduction to the brand. I'll go into the way they've used the academic theory, but so they've chosen, basically what they've chosen is the website and the social media of the brand. So those are the two tools from the digital marketing toolbox that they've chosen to analyse. And then they very clearly sort of laid it out with measurement tools and recommendations. So, in analysing Sheen's website, so they've done the introduction, and then they've also gone through one of the main academic models that we've looked at quite early on this week, which was the 5 stages of information processing by Hoffaker. So they've listed those 5 stages: exposure, attention, comprehension and perception, yielding and acceptance, and retention, and then gone into detail about how Sheen's website does on each of those 5 stages. So this is what you will do with whether it's the website, or if it's ads, or if it's like the social media profile page. So you can use this for various different elements of their digital presence. So they talk about how they're engaging consumers with pop-up discounts, which we've talked about a lot. They've talked about the F pattern and how they're trying to maximise that. With attention, they're talking about movement, pictures changing. Honestly, they're making this website sound like it's a nightmare to look at. It sounds like it would give me a bit of a seizure. Comprehension and perception, they talk about how understandable the website is by navigation. There you can also talk about how the language that's used and how easy to read the language is. And just a note here that they've also talked about the usability, how people can use the website, and referenced Davis 1919, that model of usability, technology acceptance model that we looked at. Then they've gone on to talk about why it's trusted by visitors, because they've talked about their company's beliefs and ethics and processes, and And they've talked about why this is important, and this time they've referenced the industry resource rather than an academic model, and that's fine too. We've used a mixture of industry and academic resources in this module. And then talks about how they are retaining customers. So they've gone into detail about that. So this is what you'll do for your website. Do a proper audit based on these models. And one of the things that we really like about this one as well is that they've actually done screenshots of the things that they're talking about. So this is an example of how you can fit in a lot into this sort of small space when you're trying to get those 2,000 words of text, but also getting visual aspects in as well. For their social media, they have, again, given an introduction to what social media is and the theories that they're going to use. So they mentioned the users and gratification theory. And they talk about, so here they say Shein is a social media powerhouse. Across 5 platforms, they have over 61.5 million followers. So if you're doing social media, definitely look across all of their social media, see how many followers they get, and also maybe focus in on a couple of different types of posts and see how much engagement they get. You can compare those across different platforms and different types of campaigns. Also, if you're going to look at social media campaigns, it's also worth then looking at what landing page they're taken to, or what the calls to action are, and where they end up. So try and follow that whole customer journey from, if you're doing social media or paid search or something like that, to make sure that you're not just looking at the post or the profile in isolation. Make sure that you are thinking about where the customer goes from that, because we always need to know about the goals of any activity that a company does on one of their sort of external sites like this. So they talk about the type of social media they use. They said entertainment and social. They're showing their products, multimedia, fashion and shopping. They talk about the target audience and why particular types of content appeals to that target audience. They've referenced McKinsey 2023. They talk about user-generated content and also why this is important. And then they sort of go into both the Instagram and TikTok and sort of compare the two. So yes, this is the sorts of formats that your audit of social media might take place. When we go back to the up here, we've also got the 6 I's of digital marketing. So this, again, was one of the main academic models we looked at in, I think, on Tuesday. So this is individualization, interactivity, integration, intelligence, industry restructuring, and independence of location is the one below that. So again, just like with these 5 rules of information processing, a really good way to structure your infographic when you're analysing, when you're auditing their methods, is to go through these 6 stages of information processing and assess how your brand that you've chosen is doing on all of these. And just to be clear as well, you are being critical. You're not just saying how brilliant they are at all of these things. So really think about ways that if they're not capitalising on, like they're not doing the optimum activities and methods that we have learnt about, that the academic tools and the industry reports talk about, then please criticise those methods, because when you're going to do the recommendations, here, you need to have something to recommend. So if you haven't found any issues with what they're doing, if when you're assessing them, you're just saying they're brilliant at this because of this and this and this and this, then you're going to find it quite hard to make those recommendations. Well, let's have a look at how they have laid this out for social media. So they've got the social media recommendations here and their website recommendations here. So for social media, they've said the Shein X campaign is aimed at emerging talented designers and brands, so they should utilise creative platforms like Pinterest and release ads on there to people who are likely interested, and to create a Shein X Pinterest profile and create pin boards of previous collections to inspire people. On Instagram, Shein can do a live stream with users or post a question box for users to respond with FAQs about Shein X and answer them on a story, add to them with the highlights so they can always be viewed. And then importantly, they justify this. So this is really important. The next thing is that they say, this links to social media 7 C's, McNamara, conversation as they're responding to users and feel listened to. So when you're justifying, when you're giving your recommendations, that's a really, really important thing, is to justify using the theories that we have talked about, justify those reasons for doing it. For the website, what they've said is the Shein X website needs to be more engaging, attention-grabbing headlines or more movement would be effective. I mean, they talked about lots and lots of movement, so they want even more in. Would be effective with revolving messages, banners, a picture carousel, including different design drawings, runway pictures. The video should be higher up the homepage where they're hard to find, and ease of use is a foundation of user experience. And then they reference that. And they're giving specific examples of what content they could actually use to be more engaged in those videos. So this is a good example of doing those recommendations, justifying them with theory, and actually being specific about the sorts of content that they can do. Then in terms of measurement tools, because they've been focusing on websites and social media, so those are the measurement tools that they're focusing on. So they've said, one measurement tool to evaluate Shein's website is King's Law 5-step digital marketing strategy. They suggest you must know the business intentions, wanted objectives, targets, KPIs and segments to be successful. So they talk about what the business objectives are, and then talk about measuring measuring by KPIs, like analysing the website's traffic, conversion rate, and bounce rate. What you can also what you also need to do there is say where you would measure, where you would get these measurements from. But that's really important, because what they're saying is that in order to measure the success, you need to know the objectives first. So those are the sorts of things that you need to outline as well. You need to understand what the company's objectives are and justify those. And then they talk about, in social media, they talk about reach being something that they can measure to determine success, and make it clear that they know what that means. Engagement, they talk about how many followers and likes they have, and they talk about that they can grow the engagement. And then we talked a lot about yesterday about return on investment. So what they've done here is show that they really understand how important return on investment is. And what they are doing here is saying that they can see that the social media strategies are driving traffic to the website, increasing revenue. The graph is the value of the company. That sort of information you can find for most big brands. You can find their annual reports and see how well they're doing. So that's the first part of the infographic. The second page is where you put your full references. So everything they've referred to in brackets, like Hamlin 2022, McKinsey 2023, and so on, that they are all mentioned in the references, and that's really, really important. So you add a second page to your infographic just for references. So the first page is your analysis, your recommendations, and the second page, we need all of your references. And as you can see, they have used quite a lot for this. But don't just copy and paste all of the references from the model reference there. Any questions about this specific piece of work? Anyone? Yes. So reference section, second page. You're not printing these out. You're submitting a PDF of these infographics. So first page will be the infographics, second page the reference. I'll talk about the Google Digital Garage in a little bit. Right. Okay. Good question. For the recommendation, it's up to you. You can talk about you can come up with a new campaign idea and focus on that for a recommendation, or you can just focus on the overall performance of the brand. Or what you need to do is just make it clear what you're doing. So you might find that for your recommendations, you could. Let's say you've chosen Zara, so you might do an audit of what they currently do, and then for your recommendations, you might say that for like their content, for content marketing, for example, you might talk about them doing a summer campaign, and then make the recommendations based on how they would set objectives for that campaign, how they would, what sort of content they would produce, who they would target. So, or you could just talk about recommendations for their business as a whole, for Zara. And actually, either of those is absolutely fine. So you can choose which one version of that you want to do. If you were and for the recommendations, you are evaluating the overall performance of the brand, but within that you might talk about specific campaigns that they're doing, or you might talk about the overall performance, but then sort of go, for example, their recent XYZ campaign, they did this. So a mixture of the two when it comes to digital marketing. In digital marketing in general, that's what you're doing all the time. You're working on both your evergreen digital presence and individual campaigns. So it makes sense that in your assessment you can do both. In terms of doing the research, as we discussed yesterday, you won't actually be able to see it for the website. You won't know how many visitors they get to their website. You won't know how many conversions they make. What you need to talk about is how they would measure and what would be considered success. So for social media, you can see their likes and followers and engagements, but what you can't see is how many conversions those engagements lead to. So you need to acknowledge that, but talk about how you would measure success. So you would say, in order to know whether these engagements are leading to sales, we would need to see the referrals and conversions on the website and the overall customer value that they're leading to. So it's recognizing what success would look like without knowing the actual numbers. to recommend some improvements for an available campaign? Do I just evaluate the campaign's previous performance, or I still have to do the overall? I think the key is, I think if you were doing, well, let's have a look. If you were doing a website as a tool, you would need to audit the overall website. Within that, you could then also discuss a campaign's particular landing page, but if you're doing like the website, it would be the overall website. I think if anything, if you are focusing on a campaign, you would still need to put it in the wider context of the full brand. So but when you come into the recommendations, you could just talk about a particular campaign. But ideally, to be honest, create a new one. That would be great. Come up with an idea for a new campaign. Yes. So this question, while analysing the theories, do we need to mention the problems of the brand's campaign, or will we discuss about it in the recommendation? Yes. When you're doing the audit. So if we go back and if I open up the file again. So in this audit, if you were, for example, under comprehension and perception, if you were talking about the comprehension and perception of a website, and you said the language they've used is quite complicated, it's laid out in a difficult way to read, then that is in your audit. And then your recommendations, you might say they can simplify the language that they use, or lay it out differently, or put their calls to action in more prominent areas. So your audit, when you're discussing the tool, needs to, that's when you would identify issues with the tool that they're using, as well as ways that they do it successfully. So it's a mixture of both. What you're doing is assessing, doing an assessment of how well they're performing on each of these measures. And there will be positives, there will be negatives. It's about justifying why you're saying those things. So for example, you wouldn't just say, I don't like the colours. You talk about why the colours they've chosen are, why they might have chosen it, why the colours they've chosen are attractive. So we were talking about being vivid and interactive. So if it's not vivid or interactive, if it's just a plain white website with lots of text and very few images, then you would talk about that. Which bit would you go? In the intention area. So you mentioned those things in the intention section of that. Any more questions? Alright, so what I want to do now is to show you some of the tools that you can use, and also, but again, you'll be using these tools in the seminars, but there is one that I want to check kind of works, because there's a way that you can use Canva, but get more access to exciting tools in Canva. So you don't have to use Canva for your infographic. If I open up this, in the assessment support area, there are some infographic resources and advice on how to use the infographics. So if you wanted to, you could just do the whole thing on PowerPoint, that would be fine, but you can also use canva.com, there's a website called Easily, Infogram, or you can use another one of your choice. It's just understand that we won't have support fully for another one of your choice, but if you want to use another one, you can. On my Beckett, there is, here. So on Canva, I've set up group on Canva that you can join. So if you sign up using this, you'll get access to more graphics, more choices. So could you try and do this now? The website, there's a link on my Beckett in assessment support resources, or you can type in canva.com/class/join and then put this code. So if you could try that, this is a bit of a test. So I have done it with another class before, but they all had Leeds Beckett email addresses, so I need to check this could work for you. So if you successfully do it, let me know.
You have to use the email